Good evening, Who Dat Nation, and a happy Wednesday on a Thursday to our Bayou Blitz family. Yep, that's right. Your co-host, myself, Bob Rose, and Brendan Boylan of your Bayou Blitz podcast. We decided to flex our muscle of the space-time continuum and move your Wednesday show to a Thursday. But with that, we'd like to welcome you into this week's edition of the Bayou Blitz podcast. I am Bob Rose. At the bottom of your screen is Brendan Boylan, and we are thrilled to be joined by one of the co-hosts to the Urban Sports Team podcast, Wole Akinzo. Good evening to you. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a busy day. I swear I've been on a podcast circuit of late, so I'm kind of like now getting my bearings together. So yeah, I'm glad to be on. It was great talking to you, Bob, yesterday. So I'm so excited to be on the show.
Yeah, guys, just like you, I've been kind of on the podcast circuit too. Apparently, my face is pretty enough for television. So yeah, folks, I joined Wole and his co-host Ray Rogers on their show yesterday. Check that out. On the Urban Sports Team podcast Twitter page, and I posted the links on both my Facebook and Twitter pages as well. Man, it was a blast being on with you guys. You brought a smile to my face and what otherwise has been a rough season for us, but you guys have had a pretty darn good season by all expectations, I'd say.
Yeah, surprisingly, it's been a surprise. When beginning of the season, well, like my preseason schedule, record was more like I thought we went like. I won't even lie. I said Travis Hunter Bowl. That's where I was at mentally.
Wow.
So I looked at the schedule. So you know what, because I was doing some reporting and saw the team in training camp. I'm like, they're a little bit better than what I initially thought. I said Jaden looks okay. Like Jaden is better. He looks very mature and looks like he can hit the season running. Not anything like here in terms of 2012 like RG3, but good enough to kind of win some football games. And so I was like, okay, maybe 6 to 7 wins, but to have this type of to be as competitive as this team has been very surprising. And just as a whole, not just Jaden, but like the defense compared to what they were last year. I'm not saying this defense is world beaters, but what we saw last year to what they are now, and I feel like with lesser names, this defense has been more impressive compared to what I saw last year. And I feel like last year had more talent on the defense side of football.
Well, we'll talk about the LSU Tiger. Obviously, there's a lot of connections there between Saints fans and LSU. But Jaden was a guy that, yes, had a successful handful of years before getting to LSU. Obviously, wins the Heisman Trophy, breaks out onto the scene. But I don't think there's a ton of people that would admittedly say that they anticipated the amount of success that he's had so early in his career. And I'm one of those too. I did not expect it. I figured it would be a guy where it took a few years, and maybe when you get to year 3 and year 4, you really start seeing that jump. He has already jumped, and you could make the argument has started that ascend into young superstar type of quarterback. When you watch him play and you watched him early through training camp and in the preseason, what was the one thing that made you say, dang, this guy could reach those heights this season?
Love his maturity. I think he's and I think it's good. Like there is a positive of playing, having that many starts in college football. There's a positive in the COVID year having that extra year, right? The maturity. That knocked me off the bat. And then something I like about him more that for a guy with all the skill sets in terms of being able to run, being able to make all the throws. He's a quarterback that is humble. And when I mean humble in passing the football, what I mean by that is he's not arrogant in throwing the football. Like he won't throw the football in a place that is dangerous. Like he won't say, I trust my arm. I'm just going to try to thread it in here. Like he's a guy that's smart with the football. I look at it like think of and not comparing him into the to this individual in terms of like how good at quarterbacking this individual was. But like Tom Brady made the smart play. He didn't have an ego. He would check it down if it wasn't open. He would check it down. If it's open, obviously he'll make the play, but it's not, I'm like, this is a risky play. I'm going to try to make this play. No, Tom Brady would say, you know what? I got the back I have this back open right here. I'm going to just check it down right here. So to me, Jaden has that ability to a point where, you know what, if it don't make sense to him throwing that football, deep in the middle, when it's in double coverage, he ain't gonna risk it. So I like that. And then if he doesn't see it, he'll run, which is cool. Like I and a lot of fans here have issues with like he runs too much or this, that, and the other. I'm all about like if you don't see it, because you're young and you're a rookie, if you don't see it, run, but just get out of danger. And that's fine. That's fine to me because it's better to see another down. And if with his ability to run the football, 2, 3, 4, 5 yards is good enough because now you're in second and manageable, third and manageable. So to me, it's his maturity in terms of playing the quarterback position.
And I got to believe that your fans, they're getting on Jaden when he does take off with the football. That sounds like some RG3 PTSD to me, because a lot of our fan base are begging for an athletic quarterback that can make a play with his legs. But speaking of Robert Griffin, he had such a wonderful rookie year in 2012. And a lot of people are making the comparisons because Jaden is having a really good rookie season too.
Mm-hmm.
What are the differences in the two quarterbacks that you see, that makes you believe, okay, because RG3, partly because of injury, but obviously he flamed out pretty quickly. Do you see sustainability in Jaden Daniels' game?
Yeah, I think Jay's more sustainable just because, like I mentioned earlier, he doesn't have the ego that RG3 had. You know what I mean? And I don't like comparing the 2012 season to like this year because I think people kind of forget how special 2012 was.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really was a shocker. Like what Jaden's doing was a shocker, but like obviously fans here remember the Saints game, like the first game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
That game, like because everyone had low expectations. They didn't know what to expect. And then how RG3 came out the gun and just like took the league and the league by storm. And then he got hurt. So then you didn't see the same RG3 throughout that process. Even though he still got the team to the postseason, you didn't see the same RG3 that you saw at the beginning of the season. But they're similar. They really don't have that many. The only similar thing they would have is like their running ability. But I would say Jaden's more of a dynamic runner than RG3. RG3 was more of he's got track speed, straight line speed. Jaden has straight line speed too, a little wiggle. And Jaden, to me, doesn't have as much moxie as RG3 had. Like RG3 would take some dumb hits. Jaden seems to get out of the way. So I would say that I feel like if you went arm strength, I said RG3 would have the stronger arm. But the to me the different, and RG3 had Kyle Shanahan, so that's and Mike's, which is a little different, right? Like play calling is a little bit better, and no knock on Cliff because Cliff's done a great job with Jaden. But we all know there's levels to this, right? And Kyle is on a different level as a play caller, right? Compared to than Cliff Kingsbury. But I would say the biggest difference and why I think Jaden has a great outlook on his career is that Jaden, his humility, I think is far better off than what RG3 was when he came to DC.
I'll go out and say this, and I said this back during the draft process too, is I thought RG3 had one of the prettiest deep balls I'd ever seen on
tape.
It's just that's a fact.
And I hate the fact that injuries played such a role into his career, because I really thought he was going to be one of those dudes over the course of his career.
Yeah, he would have been. It's wild because it's a little bit of combination of both. He came back too quickly. That was on him too as well. Like he was doing that all in for week 1 promotion, and so he played into that like that. And believe me when I say I'm probably like one of the pro RG3 folks because a lot of people have kind of turned their backs on him. I'm one of the pro RG3 folks, but I can admit that like some of that stuff was self-inflicted. You know what I mean? Like he had like rushed back trying to prove a point. There was a fear of Kirk Cousins as well. Like he may deny it, but there's a fear of Kirk Cousins. So he tried to rush back. Then even that, like I don't know if you all heard the stories about having his parents involved, getting cozy with Daniel Snyder. So it's just a lot. There was a lot involved, man. Like, and Mike Shanahan didn't like it, so they were butting heads. So it just some of the stuff was as an organization, it wasn't handled correctly. Some was RG3's fault. Some was Mike Shanahan's fault. Obviously, a lot of it was Daniel Snyder's fault. So, but that's kind of to me is what kind of was the detriment to RG3. I believe that RG3 would have just rested out 2013. You would have probably, and it kind of been a little bit more humble in that process. I think his career would have had a better ending.
Well, you mentioned Cliff Kingsbury. I've always been a Cliff fan, going back to Texas Tech. Love watching his offenses. How big a worry is it that your team is going to lose Cliff to a head coaching opportunity this offseason?
Yeah, you know what? It's crazy because Cliff has gotten in the beginning. Aaron was loving Cliff here, and then obviously there has been chatter of, Cliff's resume where teams typically figure him out towards the second half, towards the end of the season, and so he's been getting that kind of flack. Now the Titans game kind of shut that noise down a little bit, but I'm a realist. I kind of think that when Caleb Williams was here, and because he's local, he's local in the DMV in the DC area. When he came in with Chicago, when they played that game, the Hail Mary play. But before that, he was talking about his relationship with Cliff Kingsbury. He talks about how they talk pretty regularly, to be honest with you. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay. Well, then the Bears coach got fired. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like if Cliff wants the job, I'll say this. If Cliff wants the job, he has a good chance of getting it. But that all is predicated on Ben Johnson, too.
We talked about last night. Yeah,
I think Cliff can definitely, if you're looking for an offensive-minded coach, one is Ben Johnson on everybody's board. I don't care who you are. If you look, that's Ben Johnson. So if Ben Johnson doesn't want that job and Cliff wants the job, I think it's Cliff's to have. So but I feel like Washington is set up where they have so many smart minds in the building in terms of like assistant offensive coordinators. Like they have Anthony Lynn who's working with Cliff Kingsbury. You have I'm gonna say Brian. He was the Eagles offensive coordinator last year. I'm drawing a blank.
I know who you mean, but I forget his name escaped me too.
Yeah, he's actually he's an assistant on the offense as well. So I feel like if he leaves, they're set up. They're set up in a way where they're not, especially with Anthony Lynn. I feel like Anthony Lynn can definitely help out in terms of what running the offense, because truth be told, to be honest with you, this team is really predicated more than anything. You think of Cliff Kingsbury, you think about throwing the football, but this team is predicated on running the football. This team is really predicated on running the football.
Well, we'll go ahead and talk about that then, because this Saints defense, this season in particular, can't stop the run. They have struggled against the pass. When you look at the Saints, who are clearly having a down year, and you look at your Washington Commanders that have a multitude of guys that can run the football effectively, do you think that's the true key to victory on Sunday?
Yeah, I think they should stick with what works. So should run the football. I feel anytime this team takes on that demeanor of pounding the rock and running the football, they're very successful. You know what I mean? It's when they try to go outside of that. They try to throw the football, go out there and start throwing it. It's when they have issues. You know what I mean? So to me, the key is to utilize Brian Robinson Jr. That's the key for this Commanders team. Austin Eckler's out, but then you have Chris Rodriguez, who's played well when they given him the opportunity to back up a Brian Robinson Jr. And also you have McNichols, who is more of that scat back who can replace Eckler, right? So, but they have three backs who I feel like they can definitely wear down any defense. So to me, the key should be to run Brian Robinson Jr. Then if he needs to break McNichols, if you want to change the pace back, but if you want to keep having that physicality, go with Chris Rodriguez. And then off of that, you got to play action with Jayden. Then you can utilize Jayden a little bit more. If you want to, and if you do to a point where on first down, if you run the ball effectively on first down, you can kind of you can start to throw the football a little bit more and try to move Terry McLaurin around and try to hit Terry McLaurin. Because I feel like I'll say this much for folks who don't know, like when this team gets Terry McLaurin the ball, like I don't know, it just does something to the energy of this football team. It is a different vibe. Like it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It could be Taylor Heineke. It could be Jaden Daniels. It could be Alex Smith. Like all the quarterbacks that they've been here, when they give Terry McLaurin the ball, it just does something for the energy to it for the entire team. So I do think that's a key too. Like you got to get Terry McLaurin involved, and he can't have games. And he's had that this year. He can't have games where he's getting like 2 targets or something like that. Like that can't be a thing. So in my opinion, B-Rob is definitely the key, but also sprinkle in getting Terry McLaurin the football.
I 100% agree with that. Brendan and I have both been big McLaurin fans since he came out of Ohio State. But yeah, you mentioned a couple concerns. your boys are basically in a position where they control their own destiny for a playoff spot down the stretch. But yeah, heading into that stretch run, what are your biggest concerns about this team? What do you see that could maybe pop up its ugly head, and maybe cause Washington to go on a little bit of a skid and miss out on the postseason?
Well, it would definitely be, I would say the secondary, and also stop. Well, let me be honest with you, secondary has been better, a little bit better than I thought, but it would be the secondary, and also obviously getting Marshawn Lattimore should help because he should be playing this week. So if he can stay healthy, I do think the secondary has improved tremendously if he can just be healthy. But the thing that would hinder them for real in terms of making the postseason is stopping the run. This defense has had problems stopping the run. And to me, you have the Dallas Cowboys, which to me magnifies it the most is the Dallas Cowboys when they lost to the Cowboys. The Cowboys, who have one of the worst rushing offenses in football, were able to get over 4 yards to carry easily. So, and almost had over their back almost had over 100 yards. He had 85 yards. So, and to me, and he was average. So, and his average was up there. Like I'm gonna say his average is 4.5 yards to carry. So, and this team consistently has had that problem since week one. Even when Jonathan Allen was there, he's out. They got the rookie Jazon Newton, who everybody loves. I love Jazon Newton from Illinois. I think he's gonna be a star in this league, but it hasn't gotten any better replacing Jonathan Allen. So I just feel like if this team doesn't make the postseason, it's because they weren't able to stop the run. And we all know that in the NFL, if you can't stop the run, like you can lose a lot of football games. Like I don't care what you are. If you can't stop the run, I don't care how dynamic your offense is, you're gonna lose football games. Peyton Manning, his Colts team, Peyton Manning is one of the most prolific passers in the NFL ever. His Colts teams when his teams couldn't stop the run, he would always lose to Tom Brady and New England Patriots. You know what I mean? So if you can't stop the run in the NFL, then you can lose any game, because what happens is if a team can run the ball, they can control the time of possession. Therefore, even if you have a dynamic offense, it may not do nothing for you because you're not on the field. So to me, what can hinder this team is that run defense. That run defense has to get better down the stretch.
Keeping on that topic, the Saints finally have a healthy running back room, right? Have Alvin Kamara, but maybe illness. I think I saw Bob's face. I've seen some of the Twitter interaction with Bob and some other folks, and even Facebook reactions today and conversations. People getting really nervous. I think it would take Alvin puking his guts out to not play.
I think he plays, yeah.
Yeah. So if you have Alvin Kamara, Kendre Miller, who has had some moments throughout his career and looked really good last week, and as much as he hasn't played lately, you do still have Jamal Williams, who led the league in rushing touchdowns a few years ago.
Yeah.
When you hear that type of trio of backs for the Saints, obviously a lot of attention goes to Alvin Kamara, but could you see some of those bigger guys in Kendre Miller and Jamal Williams really, wreak havoc on the interior of your guys' defensive line?
Yeah, it could definitely happen. I'm gonna lie and say it can happen. I've seen some bad running backs get yards against the Commanders, man. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen some bad backs to a point where I'm like, come on, man. Like, really? Like, what are we doing here?
Listen, man, did your defense give up 194 yards?
No, I'm not. Again, I'm just saying as no, I get you. I'm just saying, like, just watching, like, what helps the defense is to keep them off the field.
Yeah,
like that's what with Jaden and Cliff Kingsbury, when they're running the football, having these long drives, tiring out defenses, now you're minimizing that defense's activity on the field, right? So now if the defense makes a play, they get a 3 and out, they get a stop, they get a turnover, then you get Jaden back on the field and they score. So like they score. So it could be 21-0, depending on who they're playing. And now their defense can pin their ears and worry about the pass. So that's when the defense kind of does their thing. But if the game is close, and then you got to rely on defensive stops, and the Saints can be able to run the ball. Come on, man, you got Kamara. Anything can happen, bro. Like Kamara is like a home run hitter. He's one of the best backs in football. He can do it all. He can catch out the backfield. That means if you can isolate Kamara or some of these linebackers in space, that's a problem. As much as Bobby Wagner is amazing. I love Bobby Wagner. But Bobby Wagner ain't the same Bobby Wagner he was when he was younger. Yeah. He's still great, but isolating him with Kamara ain't a look. So to me, Kamara is the big problem. Like, he's dangerous. And you've seen it with Washington already playing against, Saquon Barkley and some of the great backs that you've seen this season. Like, they all do work. Like, I'll be honest with you, they all do work. So that's the key. Is like, if they can find a way to contain Kamara, then I'm like, all right, maybe like this game could be easy. If Kamara is doing whatever he wants, you know what I mean? They're not letting the quarterback play. I mean, they're letting the quarterback off the hook by just having Kamara eat. Then yeah, we could talk about a close one. You know what I mean? So I can definitely see it. Like, yeah, that running back room definitely strikes fear to me. I'm not going to come on your show and lie to you. Yeah, it definitely strikes fear to me.
Looking ahead, if you guys make the playoffs, realistically, you're probably going to be 6th, 7th seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, looking ahead to potential first-round matchups, you're talking probability. Philadelphia, Detroit, maybe Minnesota if they can catch Detroit in the north.
Mm-hmm.
What and with playoffs, as well as I do, more often than not, it's about matchups. When you catch a team, how you match up against them.
Sure.
What kind of matchup are you kind of hoping to see Washington get if you get to that point?
I would have a problem with Green Bay. I won't lie. Anybody but Detroit. Let me just be honest. Anybody but Detroit. I don't feel like anybody else in the NFC strikes fear to me. I guess the Eagles, but
I was going to ask you about the Eagles.
I guess the Eagles, the Eagles is fair. They're also the Eagles, but they're in the division, so I feel like we'll get a good barometer of what we get to see from the Eagles because they're coming home. They're coming here next week, so we'll get a good barometer of how this team can compete with the Eagles. Here, this team competed. This team led for most of the game on against the Eagles until Saquon took over in the fourth, the last meeting. So I know they can compete with the Eagles. I just want to see it again at home, this time at home rather than on the road. Then I can give you a good answer about the Eagles. But the Eagles are dangerous. I'm not the biggest Jalen Hurts fan, though. I don't think Jalen Hurts is that special to me. But I do respect the outside weapons. Like, I think A.J. Brown, Smith, they're amazing. Obviously, Saquon. I think by them getting Saquon, it's like the cheat code. That's because now where Saquon had to do with the Giants, where he had to pretty much put a whole offensive unit on his back, now he has more freedom with the Eagles. Like, you can't just key on Saquon now. Like, now you have to key on A.J. Brown. You have to key on Devontae Smith. And if you got to key on them, that means Saquon doesn't have to see 8-9 in the box anymore. And then that's crazy. Like, Saquon not seeing 8-9 in the box is crazy. So to me, that's why I would be scared of the Eagles because of Saquon Barkley. But the Detroit Lions are, like, to me, they're just too versatile to me. Like, they're just way too versatile to me. The running game, the pass game, like, there's just too much they can do. That's why that's the one team I wouldn't want to play.
Well, we haven't really addressed it yet, and this is one of the bigger headlines for Saints fans going into this matchup, and it is Marshawn Lattimore making his debut for the Washington Commanders, a guy who had his ups and downs in New Orleans, not just on the field, but off the field as well. It seemed like for years, Bob, you and I were talking about, is this the year Marshawn gets traded? Is this the year Marshawn gets traded? And it finally happened. Marshawn's going to go down as probably the best cover corner in Saints history for me. How excited was your fan base about acquiring him? One. And two, was it a surprise to you guys that you guys were buyers at the deadline this ahead of schedule?
All right. So I'll answer the first one. Very excited. Like, it just over the moon excited. Have you seen our secondary? Have you seen our secondary? To have, I don't care if it's old. I don't care if we get paid less version of Marshawn Lattimore. That is a big improvement compared to what we have here. So second, but to answer your second question, I was surprised until I looked at the rest of the schedule and where our record was at. I was like, oh man, we have an opportunity to not just get into the postseason or maybe host a postseason game at that particular point in time of the trade. So then I wasn't as surprised. But I knew they wouldn't. I knew because I was having debates with some of my friends and some of the folks in the Commanders like social media, community, and I knew they weren't going to give up like valuable draft picks. Like they weren't going to give up like a first rounder to like because everybody's like we're going to be buyers, big buyers. We need to get this receiver. We need to go for T. Higgins. We need to go for this. We need to go for that. And I'm like, nah, we're not going to do all that. Like we're not going to do all that. We're going to get somebody that's going to be good, but it'll probably be somebody on like a fair bargain. So when we end up using some of the draft collateral that we have from other teams to get Lattimore, it made sense. You know what I mean? And then I like how GM Adam Peters kind of phrased it was more like Lattimore is not just for this season, but he's for next season as well. So we're not like worried about he's a hired gun. He's a guy that we want to a guy that we can build with, you know what I mean? Help as a vet, help groom the next cornerbacks we have, like a Mikey Sanders-Strill, like help groom him to be one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL. But no, we were excited, man. Like to get Lattimore, man, we got Benjamin St. Juste. Come on, man, stop playing with me. We got Benjamin St. Juste starting as a cornerback. Nah, no. Yes, we were all for Lattimore. We were trying to rush him on the field. That's how bad it's like. Is he like we're like, is he ready yet? He not? Oh, bye week. Oh, before the bye. Can he play against the Cowboys? At least no, he can't. Oh, we waiting to bye. Okay.
You know what? Yeah, get him rested up. Let him get his groove on for going up against Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, those guys. That's when Laddie gets up to play, man. And that's when you're going to see the true shutdown corner that Brendan and I have loved for so many years. So yeah, I mean, you got yourself up. As a player, I've always been a huge fan of Marshawn Lattimore. So y'all got yourself a good one.
I do have a question about Lattimore for you all because you all watch him. Is it injury or has his skills declined? Because I've heard it's injuries, not the skill.
No,
Okay.
not the skills, not in my view. Okay. Now one thing about Marshawn Lattimore, and we've seen this from him since his rookie year. If he's not going up against an elite wide receiver, an elite physical wide receiver, because Laddie's a physical player, then he tends. I'm not going to question his on-field effort, but he does seem to. He puts it on cruise control a little bit. Like he'll give up catches and give up games to guys that have no business having those kind of stat pads against them. But then he goes up against a CD Lamb and an AJ Brown, and of course everybody knows about Mike Evans, and that's when Laddie comes to play. So that because of that, and we've seen it as recently as even last year and early this year. In that opening game against week 2 against Dallas, when Lattimore took on Lamb pretty much all over the field, he's the same Lattimore. I mean, injuries might have caused him to lose a step overall, but speed's never been his game anyway. Physicality and agility is, and I still see that in him.
That's cool. I would love to play Tampa in the playoffs.
Oh hell yeah!
That'd be great.
I would love that matchup. I won't lie to you.
But I'm with Bob. Listen, I don't think it's a skill thing. Obviously, he had hamstring issues coming into the league, and that was one of the big knocks on him going into the draft. And we've dealt with it almost every year in New Orleans, where it's like, okay, here's the 3 to 4 weeks that Marshawn's going to miss. But even when he comes back, like Bob said, when he kind of turns it on for those big name guys, I mean, you get the best cover corner in the league. And we talked about it week in and week out for the last however many years, right? You don't have a lot of corners in today's NFL that can truly shadow and take away the best receiver on the other side. But we got the pleasure of seeing that every week with Marshawn Lattimore for the most part, right? And that's something that's going to be really special and unique to Washington over the next few years is, you're naming guys in your secondary and going, oh, come on, man. Like, of course, we're happy to have Marshawn. You're literally going to be able to take on a St. Brown or an AJ Brown and go, Marshawn, that's your guy. Take him out of the game. And when you're able to eliminate some of those phases, man, it opens up so much more. And when you watch the all 22, you're like, wow. Not so much when you're watching the game live or if you're there or you're on TV, but when you get that all 22 tape on Monday, you go, wow,
Yeah.
Like, this is how it affected everything else. So you're getting a hell of a ball player. I don't think he's lost a step.
That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear because we've been living a life with Benjamin St. Juste is supposed to be the number one corner, and that's been painful. That's been painful for life. I'm sorry. And I try not to be as negative. I try to be nice because these people they're earning a check and they're human beings. But Jesus Christ,
go throw on 2015 Saints defense for us, the Brandon Browner year, where he set the record for personal foul penalties in the course of a season. You want to talk about painful to watch? We were hyped. We thought we're getting Brandon Browner.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if we're getting, what'd you say, Payless version of Brandon. Like, we got Legion of Boom Brandon Browner, and he was awful.
Yeah, he was.
He was terrible. That whole year was really bad. We had like one or two guys that were a bright spot, but we definitely know.
Yeah, so you feeling my pain. But thank you for Marshawn, man. I appreciate that. Really, I do. The bottom of my heart. I'm a Michigan fan. I'm rooting for Ohio State person. That it's serious.
Listen, Wooly, I know we kept you a little bit past your time. Yes, thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule to join us. Listen, our shows are going to have to do a crossover or two this off season. Because these last couple of days have been an absolute blast. Talking to you, talking to Ray yesterday too. So tell our fans, because most of our fans, obviously they follow the Saints, they love the Saints, but they're football fans in general. So they appreciate a good, honest, fun show like you guys have. So tell us about your work, where our fans can find you, your work, and your show.
Yeah. So our show is called the Urban Sports Scene. We air on Wednesdays. Typically 8 o'clock. We're trying to change times, but you can catch us on YouTube, our podcast, also on like all podcast platforms. Just search the Urban Sports Scene, and on X. I can call it X now. On X at Urban Sports Scene. That's Urban Sports Scene, but that's one S between scene and sports, so it's kind of like tricky. Then on Facebook, just search Urban Sports Scene. Instagram at Urban Sports Scene. TikTok at Urban Sports Scene. We're all at Urban Sports Scene. So just search us out. We're there. So, but yeah, it was a blast doing this show with you all, man. Like I love talking sports. I love talking to cool people about sports. I like talking to smart people, not like over the top folks. So you all are those type of people. So I appreciate that.
You hear that, Brendan? I told you I was smart.
Yeah, man.
I never doubted you were smart.
Yeah,
I've never doubted that.
Yeah, I can't do over the top. You guys are awesome. So I like that.
Right back at you, man. Love you, love Ray. Would love to do more of this in the off season. But again, thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule, and hopefully we'll talk soon, man.
Definitely. You got my number, and we'll chat.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Be well. Right. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Merry Christmas to appreciate that. Merry Christmas to all. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, go tell your boys up the road to go capture the flag. Because it's not looking good for them Wizards.
It's okay. I'm a Lakers fan for real, but I have to cover the team. I'm a Lakers fan.
So then, that's still tough because.
We didn't repeat as in season champions, but we're okay. We're okay.
Braun's saving it for later in the year. Okay.
Yeah, we got it. Let's go. Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks again.
Merry Christmas.
Take care, man.
Take care.
All right. Hold on. We're on different sides than usual. Let me flip that around. All right. I don't know for you, but we've done this show so much over the years. If I'm not on if I'm looking at my screen, I'm on the left and you're on the right. When it flips, it really throws me for a loop.
I wouldn't have thought about it.
It bothers me. It's the tech. It's like the little tech IT part of me that's just like, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right. It looks weird. Presentation's off. I can just hear Thomas Manning in the back of my head yelling at me for something like that. But yeah, what a great guest. I really enjoy over the years the different guys we've got to talk to that cover those teams with their own podcasts or whether they're local media like Bob is as a writer. Having insight like that and talking to guys like that is really informative, not just for you and me, but for the viewers as well, to kind of get a better grasp on where these teams are at, right? Because outside of the Saints, there's not a lot of time to watch all those other games. you throw on the Sports Center or you throw
Yeah.
on
And look, we
whatever.
do it. You see these black circles under my eyes. They ain't for fun. They're scouting other teams, scouting other prospects, and I know you do it too. When you have time. But like you said, to get an insider's point of view, for an upcoming opponent and an honest one. Not the neither one. Neither he or Ray are the type of guys that are going to say, we're losing because of this excuse or because of that excuse, if only this and the refs are against us, blah blah blah. No, it's a realistic view of their team, their outlook and their analysis of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that I appreciate more than anything. You get so many talking heads, all the different quote unquote news sources when it comes to sports now. To be able to find a good one that gives you their honest and fair opinion is really hard to come by. So having guys like that is incredible, and it's just a ton of knowledge to have, and be able to pick their brains. So really appreciate those guys. I know that they were just kind of returning the favor, if you will. I know you were on their show yesterday, and that's fun too. We've done that in the past as well. Where we've been on their show, and then the very next day, or vice versa, they're on our show, and the next day we go on theirs. So lots of fun there. Bob, I do want to kind of switch it up a little bit because we haven't spoken to these folks since our pregame show on Sunday. Had some scheduling conflicts, and I had to go fly to the West Coast. By the way, Bob, just in case you were curious, because I know you spent some time out there in your lifetime. It's cold. It's December.
Yes, sir.
It is very cold in Denver and Boise. Very cold. Lots of flights back, but Boise doesn't have a direct flight to Charlotte. I didn't know that. So my options were very limited yesterday, and coming home is like, well, which way do you want to come home, and how many hours of layover do you want? But I digress. So we haven't spoken to the people since a couple different things of news, right? And the biggest being at the quarterback position. So let's address it. For those of you who haven't heard, or are living under a rock, or are frozen in Boise, Idaho, or Denver, Colorado,
Pittsburgh, PA,
or in Bob's territory, Derek Carr is not expected to play for the next few weeks with a fracture in his left hand and concussion protocol, which left the Saints with a decision of who's playing quarterback. We were in this pickle earlier in the year with Derek Carr, where he missed time, right? Was it going to be Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener? And you and I had the conversation back then. As much as I was excited for the prospect of Spencer Rattler, to me and to you, it made no sense that Jake Haener was your number 2 quarterback and you went with Spencer Rattler. Well, roles reversed a little bit. And they're going to, play it over again and maybe do it I don't want to say correct way, but the correct order way, I guess.
A slightly more logical way.
That's nicer, I guess. But Jake Haener has been announced the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, at least this week. I don't know how to take the Derek Carr stuff because Rizzy said week to week, but we've had reports that, well, it's a true fracture of the hand, so don't expect him back. So take it with what you want to. My understanding is that Carr will likely not play the rest of the year. But we're hearing, depending on who you talk to, you're hearing different things, which isn't usually the case in situations like this, Bob.
No, you're right. First of all, you go to my page or the Saints News Network page. We did grab the story about Haener being named the starting quarterback. The official announcement just happened this evening. So the publishing is on the Saints News Network page. Wasn't able to distribute it because it didn't get published until just before we came on the air. But yeah, check out that piece. To what you're saying about Derek Carr. I think, and they're not going to come out and say this, they being, Rizzy, Carr, Loomis, Kubiak, anybody associated with that organization. But when you're talking about a guy like Derek Carr, and some people, especially the Carr haters, are saying, well, it's not even on his throwing hand. Why can't he play? A, it's still a painful injury. B, you got to take the snap, right? A little bit easier to do that if you're, say, in the shotgun, but the Saints don't have a shotgun formation on every, or don't run the shotgun formation on every single play. They like to get their quarterback under center because that's, it's easier to disguise your run, your run pass options that way. So even if he does have a big old soft cast on his hand, and it's not. It's possible to play through the pain. Certainly possible to throw the ball. You got to take the snap. But I have a feeling that the Saints are just being cautious with both Carr, and I've said this a couple times, with Chris Olave. Because there's some people saying, Chris maybe could have played this week, but it's more likely if we see him again, it'll be next week or the week after. The Saints, as faint as it is, and it is extremely faint, the Saints are still playing for a playoff berth, specifically a shot at the NFC South title, because realistically, that's the only way any of these division teams are going to get in, is by winning this division. So they're not going to completely put a Chris Olave on the shelf or a Derek Carr on the shelf automatically for the rest of the season, because they might still have something to play for in 2 or 3 weeks. Tell me you wouldn't if the miraculous happened. Yeah, we're down to using the M word now. If the miraculous happens and the Saints manage to squeak into the playoffs, they got a puncher's chance if you have a Chris Olave and a Derek Carr back there. Now, for all that to happen, of course, you have to pull off the upset against Washington with Jay Kaner and without all those weapons this Sunday. You have to pull off the upset on the road on Monday night in late December at Green Bay next week. Likely? No. But hell, anything could happen. And you might not necessarily want to take a chance with either Derek or Chris in these instances. But if you somehow squeak out the one or both of these wins, you get a little bit of outside help. And all of a sudden, these last 2 weeks, you are literally in the thick of things. That's when we may see those guys. I don't see them taking unnecessary chances, with Carr or especially Olave and those concussions. A shorthanded Saints team beats Washington and or beats Green Bay, that changes the perspective entirely. You lose both those games, and no, I agree, we won't see Chris Olave, and we probably won't see Derek Carr.
I think Haener is going to be interesting, particularly whether it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the rest of the season, how many weeks he gets. Because in the limited action he did get, I'm not talking about the 3 handoffs at the end of the game last week, but the limited time that he has gotten, he has, I don't want to say popped off on film, but he's looked pretty good on film. There has been moments where I've said, okay, there's the improvement from year 1 to year 2. I can see the reasons the Saints took a flyer on him in the draft. He's a more put together pro at this point of his career than Spencer Rattler is at this point in Spencer Rattler's career. Yeah. And I think that's going to make a difference as well. I joked with some friends, as a lot of you know, as card collectors, Bob and I both. I have a Jay Kaner rookie patch auto numbered to 25. So I sent it to some friends. I said, am I rich now? Because everybody's going to buy the Haener hype up until Sunday. If he's great on Sunday, it goes up in value even more. But I really think it's going to. Do I want to read in the crystal ball this much? And you tell me if I'm just over exaggerating or being crazy, or if I'm being extra or too over the top and all the things that we just talked about us not being. But I see this as an opportunity for the Saints front office to kind of look in their crystal ball and see what they have at the position moving forward. Because we've already seen Spencer Rattler. And if we're being honest with ourselves, again, I love the prospect that is Spencer Rattler. Rattler is not a starting quarterback in the league.
No.
And could he develop into that at some point? Perhaps. But you know what you got in a backup quarterback there. You know what you have in Derek Carr. You and I have said this multiple times. Easier to get out of his contract as it progresses. It's easier to do the Saints thing and get out of it if you want to. And then you have Jake Haener, a guy who's in his second year, going to be going into his third year next season. It's a chance for them to kind of look at the crystal ball and go, what options do we have? And is there a route we want to go? Right? I see DJ in the comments asking about, is there a potential of restructuring Carr's contract, kind of getting out of it, letting him go, and looking at a guy like Justin Fields? Not this year.
No.
Not this offseason. But if it continues, if we get into going into Carr's fourth year of the contract, so after next season, and the Saints want to get out of it and chase somebody, they might be able to. But this is a really good opportunity to get a clear crystal look at all three quarterbacks and go, which direction we want to go. And what's the agenda? Because that's the thing that's being thrown on Twitter right now, right? What's the agenda for the Saints? Is the agenda to go draft a running back? Is the agenda to what did I see? March for Arch, I think was the hashtag that I saw. What's the agenda at this point? I don't know if it's necessarily that, but it is getting a better grasp at what do they have at this position and how they can kind of pivot going forward.
Yeah, and I think that's all the agenda is. That, and they are legitimately trying to win games because they're not out of it yet.
Which is crazy to say.
Right. And as you said, Spencer Rattler's had his shot. Now we don't mean that. Neither you or I mean that to sound like Mickey Loomis, Clint Kubiak, Darren Rizzi, Gail Benson are all sitting there saying, Spencer had his turn. It's only fair to give Jake his turn. No, because if Rattler played balled out, back in those 3 games where he played for an injured Carr, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. Then it would have been Rattler hands down. But I think it was very telling that after Carr came back after those 3 games, Spencer went back to being the emergency quarterback, and Haener just stayed number 2 the whole way through. So in other words, Rattler just simply was not ready to play, and I think that was clear. Now, the lack of weapons, the lack of offensive line, literally at all, during Spencer's 3 starts, obviously that played a big part in it. But because that played a big part in it, I think that's why they're going with Haener. Does Rattler have the better physical tools? Heads and shoulders, yes. But Haener is very clear, is the quicker decision maker. And that's what this team needs right now. You don't have a Taysom Hill to fall back on. You don't have a Chris Olave. You don't have a Rashid Shaheed where you just drop 3 steps, throw it as far as you can, and expect the sprinter Shaheed to get underneath it. You don't have any of those guys. You have Alvin Kamara and a bunch of nobodies, a bunch of complementary weapons or worse. So you need a guy that's going to make those rapid decisions, get rid of that ball as quickly as possible, and play within a system. And that's what they feel like that Jake could do. Now, if they decide, or if Derek Carr's injury is as such that he isn't going to be able to play for 3, 4, 5 games. Well, there's 4 left, 3, 4 games. If Haener after a start or 2 doesn't play well, then they probably will give Rattler another shot here. But it's not a case of, young Spencer got his turn, it's time to give little Jake his turn. No, they feel like they need Jake's quicker decision making over Rattler's arm and athletic talents at this stage.
That's exactly it. And, earlier the word maturity was thrown around a lot when we were talking about Jaden Daniels. And I think that would be a good word here for Jake Haener as well, is that the Saints need the maturity of Jake Haener more so than they need the athletic ability, crazy arm talent of Spencer Rattler. And that doesn't mean that Rattler can't grow into being a more mature NFL quarterback, but he's
not at all.
He's a rookie that had his ups and downs in college, was a day 3 pick, and was thrown in a situation where, and I don't think it gets enough credit, and maybe this is me defending Spencer Rattler a little bit because, again, I love the prospect, but no offensive line. Like, how much do we talk about when guys get drafted? It's about where they get drafted and the weapons around them and how they can succeed. It was kind of like, all right, Spence, my guy, congratulations, you're the starting quarterback. Your offensive line were literally working for waste management yesterday. They were picking up your trash. They're now your offensive linemen. Congratulations. And he's okay, great. Well, what about wide receiver? And they're like, the high school track coach, Bob Rose.
Hey,
he's your wide receiver. I was like, oh, okay. So that's kind of what he was working with. Now, Jake has a little bit better of an opportunity. He should have a healthy starting offensive line. And he has some okay compliments, right? Alvin Kamara alongside Kendre Miller, MVS, who has shown to be a valuable option for the Saints, et cetera, et cetera. I think ultimately it was the right choice, especially if the Saints' end goal is to try to win some of these games. It's an interesting one inside the Superdome against Washington. I don't know about a score prediction. I guess we'll save that for Sunday.
Yeah, we always save it for Sunday, but I made one on one of the shows, one of the Washington shows that I was on yesterday, and let's just say I don't have I'm not optimistic, not at this stage.
The Saints are 7.5-point underdogs, I believe. I think that's the spread right now. Yes, 7.5 is the spread. So, will the Saints lose by more than a touchdown? Essentially, we'll find out. But Bob, you know it. I know it. Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players and 2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash on your favorite athletes' performances. I want you to think, will Jake Haener rack up higher than half a passing touchdown this week? Or will Alvin Kamara get higher than 70 rushing yards against a defense for the Commanders that has struggled against the run? You can cook up some entries for a shot to win real cash prizes all football season long. You can join those over 5 million fans that are already playing Underdog with their Pick'em entry game. You could win money by making entries with your favorite players. Bob and I, well, it was looking good at the start of last week.
Know.
It was looking good. I was like, yes, I feel confident. And, well, if the Saints are having one of those years, Bob and I are having one of those years. But guess what? We're going to turn it around this week. I don't know what the lines are yet, right? I don't know what the projections are, but we're going to kill it this week. You know why? Because we're going all out. We're going to make 6 picks this week, Bob, because why not? We're at the end of the year. We're just going to go for it. We're going to swing for the fences, right? We're going to hit a home run or we're going to strike out trying.
We're going to throw a Hail Mary on every single play.
So Will's playing Madden? Is that what you're saying? We're going back to 7-year-olds playing Madden. We're running 4 verts every play. We are scoring every play. Oh, man. There was one Madden in particular with 4 verts at the tight end. If you had an athletic tight end, it was like, if you had like Jimmy Graham in some of those, it was like open every play. As soon as he broke out into that, it wasn't like truly like a corner route or truly a post route. But as soon as he made that cut, if you threw the ball, I mean, Jimmy's dunking over guys. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
But with all that said, guys, download the Underdog Fantasy app today. Use code Bayou Blitz to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the app today. Use code Bayou Blitz to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or older in Massachusetts and Arizona. Got to be present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. If you're in Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. And finally, if you're in New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. Just thinking about it during that read, man. If we had this back in 2011, we would be cashing every single week. I was just thinking about that 2011.
We'd be retired.
We'd be retired. Yeah. We wouldn't be doing this show. I mean, we probably still would.
Well, yeah, because even though we'd be retired from paying jobs, we'd be, eccentric billionaires, instead of, eccentric poverty flirters. The best I got. So yeah, we do this show for what's and giggles. So yeah,
pretty much, man. What we could do if we could have the the Back to the Future storyline where you get the almanac, the 2000s almanac, and you go back and you bet all in the games. Oh man, that 11 season in particular, if we knew what we knew now and we could go back to 2011, we'd be balling. We would be balling. With all that said, Bob, you mentioned you had some articles come out, particularly the Jake Haener news. You're going to have some more articles come out. I'm sure you're going to be talking about how Jake Haener changes the offense opposed to what we saw with Spencer Rattler and Derek Carr. And you're going to have some more insight and knowledge about the Saints, not just this week, but going forward, should Derek Carr not be able to play. And I'm sure whether it be you or John or Kyle, somebody's got that awesome article in regards to Marshawn Lattimore returning to the Superdome for the first time. So where can people find all that, keep up with you on the internet, and make sure that in the world of crazy that Bob may or may not still be sane?
I am the king of crazy, period. But folks, thank you. For jumping on with us tonight, and bearing with our schedule change. Whether you're tuning in live, whether you're catching us after the fact, you guys are what makes this fun. And thank you to tonight's guest, Wole Akinzo. Make sure you check him out, along with his broadcast partner, Ray Rogers, at the Urban Sports Team podcast. Man, it was great to cut up with you guys yesterday and today. So thank you both. And in the meantime, folks, you can, of course, check out my work, along with that of John Hendricks and Kyle T. Mosley on the Saints News Network, at Saints News on Twitter, or the SI.com team page. I also post all of my articles and all of our show links on my personal social media, which is Bob Rose on Facebook and at Bobby R 2613 on the X Twitter. And Brendan and I continue to be proud, of your Bayou Blitz being one of the promoters for the original Go Black and Gold charity fan cruise. This is it's now in its 11th year, with the proceeds benefiting the American Cancer Society. And it's also a special and unique event featuring an ultimate fan experience and heavy involvement from Saints legends such as Delvin Breaux, Tyrone Hughes, Michael Lewis, Lance Moore, Courtney Roby, and the newest addition, Pierre Thomas. We are looking to have Michael Lewis on our show for the full show, next Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. And we've had all the, Mike and all these other guys on with Brendan and I recently. So if you missed those, make sure you go back and check out that. You could do so by just searching for Bayou Blitz on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and several other locations. But this cruise itself is through the Seven Seas Travel Agency, and it's going to be held from March 27th through March 31st, departing directly from the Port of New Orleans. For booking, donations, or promotional information, contact Shireen DeWalt through the Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise Facebook page, or Follow Brendan and myself and or the Bayou Blitz and any of our affiliated groups, Who Dat Domination, Who Dat Nation, and Under the Dome.
For myself, you can follow me virtually everywhere at BT Boylan. Like Bob said, thanks for sticking with us through the schedule changes. And as we hit the holidays, I'm sure there will be some other ones coming as well. So thank you guys for sticking with us. Hopefully you guys are staying warm. I will take all the blame for the schedule changes. Kind of hard to do a podcast when you're I don't know how high an airplane goes in the air anymore, but when you're 10,000 plus feet up in the air, it's a little hard to, be doing a podcast. I'll try it sometime, maybe.
You were out in the Rocky Mountains, and I know Pikes Peak and Longs Peak are over 14,000 feet tall. So, so I hope you were flying higher than 10,000 because I'm seeing you now, unless I'm looking at a ghost.
Ooh, no, I'm just kidding. Maybe 30,000. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
But whatever. Like maybe sometime we should try it. We should try to do a live show while we're sitting next to each other on an airplane. I mean, that would be interesting. It might be a disaster, but it would be interesting. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks for all the continued support for the show, even in a season that has been less than ordinary for the Saints over the last, 15 years or so. With that said, Bob and I will be back with our standard pregame show on Sunday. We'll see you guys at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 10:30 Central for continued preview of the New Orleans Saints and the Washington Commanders. I'm not used to that yet. I know
you notice I don't say it. I will call them Washington.
I know. You did the same thing when they were just the football team. So
I know. I will respectfully not use the R word, although I'm rooting for it to come back. I think if you guys have followed me for quite some time, I have very strong feelings on this matter, and it has nothing to do with racism or bigotry, but very strong feelings on the traditionalism of it. So I won't, out of respect, I will try to refrain from using it on shows. I will definitely refrain from writing it, but I don't say Commanders. I didn't say the football team. I don't write Commanders. I didn't write the football team. They are Washington.
I know that is one thing. If you guys hadn't picked up on that, now the secret's out, but that has been that way since the name change.
Yep.
And Bob and I have been working together before the name change. Right?
Yeah.
Because Breeze broke the record in
it was 2018 and they were still the Redskins. So
we've been working together well before that. Wild world. Well, guys, thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of the Bayou Blitz podcast. I don't know if you guys got to check it out, but look at that. We should give one of these away. We should try to work that out. But we are going to do a giveaway.
Yeah.
You know what, Bob? I haven't talked to you about it, but I'm going to go ahead and announce it. We're going to do it. And we'll keep throwing it out. It's going to be our Christmas giveaway. Bob and I are going to pop ourselves. And somebody's going to get a dual Funko Pop Bayou Blitz of Bob and Brendan. Bob, that means you and I have to buy one for ourselves as well.
I told you I would. If they're getting made, I have to buy one.
So we're going to give one away. We are absolutely going to give one away. Or
I'll buy yours and you buy mine. It'll be our Christmas gifts to each other.
Beautiful. Bob was reading my mind. I said, or we could do one of Bob and one of Brendan and do two giveaways. I like the dual one though. I think that's cool.
Yeah, because if we don't do the dual one as a giveaway, then we have to unfortunately find out who our fans prefer more, you or me.
It's gonna be you.
Why?
It's gonna be you. People love Bob. The people love Bob. With all that said, we are going to do that giveaway. So I'll go ahead and try to get that stuff ordered so we can get it to somebody in time for Christmas. But check out the Bayou Blitz Twitter page at Bayou Blitz Pod for the details. We'll also post it in all of those groups. And we'll have one lucky winner that ends up having to display tiny Bob and Brendan action figures somewhere in their office or home.
I noticed you paused just for one brief second before you said lucky. One lucky winner.
Are they lucky?
Man, I don't know.
I don't know if they're getting into the giveaway. Look, I know one guy that's going to jump at it though is John Butler. John Butler's going to enter that thing about 20 times under 20 different profiles because he wants one. With that said, thank you guys again for tuning in tonight. We'll see you guys on Sunday for the pregame show. Until then, find some peace, spread love, practice positivity, and who dat?
Who dat?